Wonderful. Welcome. Thank you all for joining me for a Yin Yoga class. This is going to be a floor-based yoga class. We're going to hold postures for a little bit longer than maybe like a vinyasa style yoga class. We'll hold postures anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. So with Yin Yoga, you want to do a little bit less than you might if you were holding a posture for say 30 seconds or a minute. You want to do about 70% of what you think you should do. And again, it's all going to be floor-based. You might want a blanket or maybe a pillow, but we don't need any fancy yoga props, and today's class isn't going to be too prop heavy. So start in a comfortable seated position. You can sit crisscross applesauce or in Sukhasana with one foot in front of the other. I'm sitting on a blanket so that my hips are a little higher than my knees. You might find this nice and comfortable, or you might just want to sit down on the floor. And we're going to start with a breathing exercise called Nadi Shodhana, which translates to mean nadi means like channels, right? Kind of like your nose channels. And then Shodhana means like purification. So we're going to purify like our energy channels through our breath. So you're just going to take a second here and put a finger on your right nostril, plug your right nostril, and notice how you can breathe through your left nose. And then remove that finger, put a finger on your left nostril, plug your left nostril, and notice how you're breathing through your right nose. So it's likely that you found that one channel, energy channel, was a little bit easier to breathe through from the other. The left side, if you found it easier to breathe through your left nostril, is associated more with yin energy, lunar energy, the left side of the body and the right side of the brain. It's a little bit darker. And if you found it easier to breathe through your right nostril, that's associated with the yang side of the body, the right side of the body, the left brain, it's a little bit more solar. And through this breathing exercise, we're going to bring those energies in harmony to start. So again, you probably noticed that it was easier to breathe through one channel than the other, and we're going to alternate which channel, which nostril we're breathing out of it. So it's alternate nostril breathing or Nadi Shodhana. So you're going to start with your right hand. I'm not mirroring you. Take your middle and index finger, put those on your third eye space, your pineal gland, source of consciousness in Eastern and Western medicine. Massage that for a second. And then the idea is you're going to start by, I'll just talk you through it real quick. You're going to plug your right nostril with your right thumb, inhale through your left nose. Then you're going to plug your left nostril with your left ring finger, release right nostril, exhale through right nose, inhale through right nose, plug and hold, release, exhale through left nose, plug and hold, and we'll continue like that. So sit up tall, drop your shoulders, seal your lips, place your right thumb on your right nose, and begin. Inhale through your left nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Plug both nostrils, release your right nostril, exhale through right nostril, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale through right nostril, 1, 2, 3, 4. Plug both. Release left nostril, exhale through left nostril, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale through left nostril for a count of 4. Plug. Exhale through right nostril, count of 4. Inhale through right nostril, count of 4. Hold. Exhale through right nostril, count of 4. We'll continue alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana, for 2 minutes. Let's do one more full round. Whenever you're ready, you can release your right arm down. Maybe do any motions with your neck and shoulder that feel good. I often find my shoulder tenses up a little bit after that. And then you're just going to find your way back into stillness. So as I mentioned at the beginning of that Nadi Shodhana breathing exercise, the idea is we're evening out, purifying our energy channels. I mentioned the left side body is the more yin side, the right side body is the more yang side. And this yoga class that we're doing is called Yin Yoga. So it's more about the feminine, lunar, slower paced side of the body, the right brain side of the body. But also as a reminder, I do not personally believe in binaries. So the same way that there's yin and yang, solar and lunar, night, day, black, white, there's also shades of gray, there's sunset, there's sunrise, there's kind of cloudy days, right? Many of us have friends who do not check box one gender category neatly or not at all. So just as a reminder, we're going to use this idea of yin energy throughout class, but also we're going to push back a little bit on the idea that everything is so binary, black and white. Okay, we're going to make our way into our first long held yoga posture. Take your time. We're going to go into a child's pose. So to start, bring your knees and feet together, hips down onto your heels. And if your hips don't touch your heels, you might want to grab some pillows and blankets that you can put between your calves and your thighs, just so that you feel a little bit more supported. From here, you're going to open your knees so that your feet are together, but your knees are apart. Put your hands on the floor and start to walk your arms forward, forehead to floor. So this is a child's pose, so we're going to hold here for 5 minutes. And during those 5 minutes, we'll move our upper body right and left. But for now, you're just going to reach your arms forward and sink your hips down. Again, you're welcome to have pillows or blankets in between your calves and your thighs if your hips don't sit all the way down. You're also always welcome to place a pillow or blanket under your forehead or your chest if that feels good. And if having your arms forward does not feel right for your shoulders today, you can also have your arms down by your side. So there's lots of options here. As many of you know, yesterday was the summer solstice. So we are now in our summer season. We're transitioning seasons, right? This is kind of the lightest, brightest part of the year. And yet we're doing yin yoga, which is associated with a more lunar energy. So for this class, I thought I would give you some affirmations that you're welcome to tell yourself during each posture. And this is just an invitation. You don't have to use them, but I'll offer up some affirmations for throughout our practice. So if you'd like, you can silently say to yourself in your child's pose, I am grounded. I am grounded. I am grounded. You're just going to hold here and breathe. So we're going to keep our lower body in our child's pose for a full 5 minutes. But as I said earlier, we are going to move our upper body. So as you're ready, start to walk your hands to the right side of your mat. You can place your left hand on top of your right hand. Have your forehead between your arms. And if your arms are down by your side, you can still move your spine to the right without having your arms involved. So now it's just a gentle stretch to the left side body, gentle compression to the right side body, while you're in this child's pose. So child's pose is really good through stretching out through the toes, the ankles, the knees, and the hips. And as we move our spine in a couple different directions, we'll also kind of wake up our upper body. Now in some styles of yoga, especially styles of yoga where you hold postures for like 30 seconds to a minute,
You might push yourself to your deepest point right away, or you might contract muscles to get into the posture. In Yin Yoga, because we hold them for so long, you want to do about 70% of what you think you should be doing. And if you ever need to come up and take a break for a moment or grab a prop or switch up what you're doing, that's also just great. And in some styles of yoga, you'll like engage your muscles to get into the posture. But in Yin Yoga, you want to relax your muscles to get into the posture. So rather than forcing or fighting here, just see if you can really melt into the ground and just let your breath do the work. If you're ready, you're going to walk your hands back to center and then walk your hands to the other side, to the left side of your mat, maybe with right hand on top of left hand. I am grounded. I am grounded. Notice where you might still be holding on to tension and let it go through the exhale breath. At this point, you might really be feeling it in your hips, right, or your inner thighs. And that's okay. A little discomfort is okay, but if it's painful, remember that you can grab a prop or take a break for a moment. If you're ready, you're going to walk your hands back to center. This time, keep your left arm long and slide your right arm through your left arm for a thread the needle variation. You can have your forehead on the floor, or you can look to the left so your right ear is on the floor. So now we're working out the shoulder deltoid. Let your left arm relax. If you'd like a different affirmation here, you can say to yourself, I am in the right place at the right time. I am at the right place at the right time. I am at the right place at the right time. If you're ready, you're going to unthread the needle, slide your right hand out and forward, and we'll do the other side, left arm out and forward. Again, you can have left ear on the floor or forehead on the floor, palm facing the ceiling. And this is our last one. So just know that the end is near. Hold in here for a few more breaths. Slowly slide your left arm out from under you, reach both arms forward, take a breath. And then as you're ready, you're gonna look forward, walk your hands in, take your time, pressing yourself up. There's no rush. Whew, you can sit up, feels good. And then at your leisure, you're gonna make your way onto your back for a puddle pose. You can close your eyes, open your arms and legs, We actually stayed there a little bit longer than 5 minutes, which is totally fine in the physical sense. Like some people will hold these postures for like 10 to 15 minutes, but just so you know, if you really felt it, I'm right there with you. So for puddle pose, you can lie down on your back. You can open your arms and legs as much as you want. And you might feel some sensations in your body as you release out of that posture, like maybe a change in temperature or in mood or in energy. I know like my feet are a little bit cold right now, right? In that posture, we cut off a little bit of circulation to the feet. Now as you lie still, you're getting a nice rush of blood down from the heart into the hips, the knees, the ankles, and the toes. So especially with long held postures, we want to take a moment to breathe and reset afterwards. There's 3 tenets to Yin Yoga. You make a shape, you hold a shape, and you breathe. And as you might have realized in that child's pose that we held for a while, right, at a certain point, it becomes kind of hard to hold the shape and to breathe. But that's part of, I think, the transformative experience in this style of yoga. And if something doesn't feel right to you in class, you're going to grab a prop, you're going to take a break. But if something's a little bit challenging, especially if you're finding it challenging just to sit still, that's a nice place to be. I think sometimes yin can be like as mentally challenging, if not more mentally challenging than it is like physically, right? And just remembering that we always have this nice stillness afterwards in our puddle pose. Another fun thing about yin is that it has slightly different names for some postures. So in some styles of yoga, lying on your back, you might call it savasana or corpse pose, but in yin, we call it puddle pose, like you're a little puddle on a rainy day, just kind of melting into the ground beneath you. Okay, as you're ready, you're gonna bend your legs so that your feet are on the floor. Roll off to one side, take your time, put your hands on the floor, and press yourself up. There's no rush. Good. Okay. We're gonna go into a seated forward fold with your legs long in front of you. And walk your hips back a little bit. And if you'd like, you can stack some pillows and blankets in between your thighs and your chest. You're gonna stick your butt out a little bit, and then you're just gonna fold forward. We're only gonna hold here for 2 minutes. The idea is we're stretching the hamstrings and the backs of the calves. We're gently rounding the spine. After that big stretch, that big hip opener, in child's pose. And let your head hang heavy unless this doesn't feel good to your back, especially if you have a history of slip discs. You can put your hands on the floor and press up so that your back is flat. Otherwise, fold forward, and if you'd like, you can even cross your arms, drop your head, let your head be in your arms, and you're just gonna take a breath. And here, if you'd like to tell yourself an affirmation, I trust my intuition. I trust my intuition. I trust my intuition. So sometimes in yoga, something doesn't feel right for our body, but we kind of keep doing it anyways because the teacher is like telling you to do it, or the people around you are doing it, right? And you're like, what could it hurt? And especially in Yin Yoga, and especially like on Zoom where there's truly nobody around you to watch, trust your intuition, right? If this doesn't feel good for you, switch it up. Find another way to stretch the backs of your legs and your back, right? So you're trusting your intuition here. And throughout class, you're just going to trust that you know what's best for your body. Now, for sure, sometimes the mind plays tricks. And sometimes, things can be a little uncomfortable, especially stillness. And that's okay, right? We're going to work through that. But on the other hand, sometimes, especially outside of yoga, we kind of ignore what our intuition is telling us. And yoga can be a really beautiful opportunity to listen to what your intuition is telling you. Notice where you might still be holding on to some tension and let it go through your exhale breath. We'll hold here for 30 more seconds. As you're ready, you're going to look forward. If your head was dropped, slowly press yourself up. Again, there's no rush. We want to move slowly in and out of the postures. Set your props aside if you had them. And this time, you're going to make your way onto your abdomen for a belly pedal pose or belly savasana. So as you lie on your abdomen, you can bend your elbows out and your hands in and maybe look to one side. You can also have your arms down by your side or your forehead on the floor. And just relax here, noticing the sensations as your body returns to a little bit more of a neutral state. Send deep belly breaths in and out through your nose to massage the front of your body. Breathe deep into any point of tension. Let the floor hold you up. If you're looking to the right, gently lift your head and look to the left, right here on your mat. Slowly lift your head, look forward. We're going to do a Sphinx pose back bend with a optional frog, half frog variation. So I'll explain what all of that means. As you're ready, you're going to start to bend your elbows and walk your hands in. And this is what's called Sphinx pose. Maybe your elbows are under your shoulders, or maybe the arms are a little bit forward. The idea here is you're getting a supported back bend. Now, if you're like me, one of the trickiest parts about Sphinx pose is keeping the shoulders out of the ears. So in general, with Yin Yoga, we do want to relax into postures, but in Sphinx pose, there should be a little bit of activation with the forearms to keep the shoulders out of the ears. So this is what's called Sphinx pose. And if you'd like to add an optional hip opener, what you're going to do is, I'm going to do the left side first so you can see it. You're going to start to bend your left knee out to the left, so that eventually your knee is in line with your hip and your ankle is under your knee. And this is what's called half frog. In a full frog pose, both knees would be open. I find that to be a really hard posture to do. So I like to do half frog because then we get this back bend with the Sphinx and you're still getting that hip opener, but just one hip at a time. We're going to hold here for 2 minutes and then we'll do the other side and hold that one for 2 minutes. I release all that no longer serves me. I release all that no longer serves me. I release all that no longer serves me. We'll hold here for a minute longer. If opening your hip like this doesn't feel good, you can skip it entirely and just do Sphinx pose with both legs down. It might also help to try placing a blanket underneath your hip or under your knee so there's more support there. Keep the shoulders out of the ears. You're doing a gentle back bend and you're also stretching, opening the fascia on your chest. Especially in a world where we tend to hunch forward a lot, back bends like this are really healing for the spine. They might feel a little uncomfortable when you're in them. That's okay. Holding here for a few more breaths. Okay, if you have a prop under your hip or anywhere else, you're just going to remove that. Slowly slide your left leg back down, both legs long, and then slowly lower down for your belly savasana. So with your inhale breath, you can really expand the backs of your ribs to stretch your back. With your exhale breath, let your shoulders soften. If you're looking to one side, gently lift your head and look to the other side. Look forward and let's do our other side of Sphinx pose with an optional half frog variation. As you're ready, you're gonna bend your elbows again, and maybe elbows are under shoulders this time, or maybe they're further away, right? The further you walk your hands away, the less compression to the lower spine it is. The more you walk the elbows in, the deeper back bend you get. Option to stay here or start to bend your right knee out to the right. You can look to your right. You want your right knee eventually in line with your right hip and your right ankle under your right knee. Again, you are welcome to place a prop under your hip if that feels good. You can also always place a blanket underneath your chest if that helps you feel a little bit more supported in your back bend. We're going to hold here for 2 minutes. I open my heart to the coming season. I open my heart to the coming season. I open my heart to the coming season. Keep the arms gently activated so the shoulders are out of the ears. Notice where you might be holding on to tension in the lower body, any unnecessary tension, maybe in your glutes or your thighs or your hips. Let it go through your breath. Holding here. If you have any sort of prop underneath your hips or your chest, you can slowly remove that. If you're in the frog variation, lengthen your right leg back down and then slowly lower back down. So sometimes back bends and hip openers can release tension in the body or even kind of emotions that are lying dormant in the body. So, especially after doing some hip openers and back bends, right? You start to feel a certain way, if you have the urge to cry during class or laugh during class, that's all normal. Also, if you don't feel much, that's also normal. And especially with yin yoga, especially when we're purposely doing a little bit less. I sometimes find that when I'm in the posture or even, afterwards, I don't feel much, but the next day I can feel it. So keep that in mind as well. Again, you're not trying to feel the most in every single posture. It's just that we hold the postures for long enough that even when you're not going all the way into your deepest point, you still get a nice stretch. If you're looking to one side, gently lift your head and look to the other side. Okay, gently lift your head, put your hands on the floor, press yourself up. There's no rush. Good. This time we're going to do what's called hero pose. So you're going to open your knees and your feet, and you might want some pillows or blankets nearby. And from here, you're going to start to walk your hands back and eventually sink your hips down. If you do 26 and 2 yoga with me, we call this fixed firm Vajrasana. But in other styles of yoga, especially in yin, you might call it hero pose. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. You are welcome to place blankets underneath your butt so that your hips don't sit all the way down. If you have tight toes or ankles, you can also place a little blanket under your ankles, your knees, or you could also just roll up your mat so there's a little extra padding there, right? So this is called hero pose, and you can stay right here and hold. You're getting a nice stretch through your toes, your ankles, your knees. You can also start to go back. I'm going to slide forward a little bit here. You can also start to go back either with something underneath your butt or that removed. Eventually, you're going to slide back and do a little back bend, and then you'll really start to feel it in your thighs as well as getting a nice back bend. You can have your arms out to the side like a big open gesture. I invoke the wisdom of all those before me. I invoke the wisdom of all those before me. I invoke the wisdom of all those before me. We're going to hold here for another 1.5 minutes. If you're lying back and it's not feeling good, you can sit up. If you've been sitting up and you feel a little bit more loose, you can lie back. If you need to add or remove props from under your butt, under your knees or ankles, feel free to do that. Otherwise, just keep it simple, make a shape, hold the shape, breathe through your nose. 30 more seconds. Notice where you might still be holding on to tension. Let it go through your breath. How to come out of this one? That's a tricky question. As Bernie Clark, who's one of the godfathers of Yin Yoga, sometimes jokes with this, he says, how to come out of this posture? Well, if you can afford a crane or an ambulance, you could call them. Otherwise, you're going to slowly put your hands on your feet, push yourself up. Please take your time. Whew. Okay, and as you're ready, slowly lift your hips up. Do any motions to your body that might feel good. And then turn and relax on your back. Back into your puddle pose, letting everything stretch out. Another thing that Bernie Clark says is that sometimes practicing this style of yoga gives us empathy for what it might feel like to be very elderly or have like really bad arthritis, right? So sometimes when we come out of the postures, you might feel stiff. And that doesn't mean that you did it wrong, right? Sometimes we feel stiff just because we held the posture for a while and we, stretched one part of our body, compressed one part of our body. One part of our body probably had a little bit less circulation. Another part of our body was probably like flooded with blood the whole time. So when we release out, of course, it might feel a little bit uncomfortable, and that's okay. And again, that's why we do this pedal pose between postures, so that everything gets a chance to reset. And for example, in this fixed firm pose, just like in child's pose earlier, we cut off a little bit of circulation to the feet. So now when we lie back down, we get a nice rush of blood towards the feet. And this is actually really useful in healing like scar tissue in the lower body. And if you do have arthritis, this compression and the release is really good for getting a nice rush of blood through the joints. So keep that in mind. Again, sometimes when you're in the posture or when you come out of it, you might feel a little stiff or creaky or uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that you did it wrong, right? It's just this nice way to reset the body and take a nice slow breath. Next, we're going to do what's called swan pose in Yin Yoga. Other styles of yoga call it pigeon pose. And I'll give you some alternatives. So if you already know that swan pose or pigeon pose is not for you, you can do a supine figure 4. So still laying on your back with your feet on the floor, knees bent. And you'll just cross one ankle on top of the other thigh and lift the thighs up. So this is one variation, a supine figure 4. Otherwise, feet on the floor, roll off to one side, slowly press yourself up. And come into a nice seated position. Take a breath here at the top. Okay, make your way into a tabletop position. And we're going slow with intention. And as you're ready, you're gonna start to slide your right knee towards your right wrist. Move your right foot to the left and slide your left leg back. Eventually, both hips sink down. Doesn't have to be today or tomorrow. You can place blankets or pillows underneath your left hip, left thigh, so that it's supported. Look back. You want your ankle in line with your knee and hip. Try moving your left hip a little forward, right hip back, so the knees are in line. So this is what's called, again, swan pose in Yin Yoga, which I love, versus other styles of yoga call it pigeon pose.
And no offense to the pigeons, but I do think it's a nicer name to call it swan pose. So you can stay here in your swan, or you can fold your swan forward. Or you can do a proud swan where you do a back bend. We're gonna hold here for 3 minutes. We're almost already at a 1-minute mark. If swan pose is not working for you, again, you can come up. You can lie on your back for supine figure 4, or you could do a seated figure 4 where you're on your butt with your feet behind you, keep your left foot on the floor, cross your right ankle on top of your left thigh and pull in. And now you get the same stretch to the outer seat, the hip, the right thigh, and the sciatic nerve without putting too much pressure on your hip, right? So there's lots of different ways to get this same stretch to the outer right side seat, the right hip, and the sciatic nerve without being in your swan pose. Now, for those of you who are, perhaps flexible, or you do this posture frequently, the next step would be to bring your right ankle forward so that your shin is parallel to your mat. And the next step from here would be the splits, right? So if you've ever wanted to do the splits, pigeon pose is a really wonderful way to work into that. We have 1 minute left. Maybe if you've been folding forward, you do a back bend, or if you've been doing a back bend, you fold forward, and then just hold and breathe. I am beloved. I am beloved. I am beloved. As you're ready, you're going to slowly press yourself up. Place your palms on the floor, slowly lift your hips. Bring the right leg back into your tabletop. You can do any motions that feel good to your body here. And then turn around into your puddle pose. Notice how it feels to release out of that posture. And that's a great hip opener. It's also good. Any of those either figure 4 or swan pose variations, really great if you have sciatic nerve pain or if you know someone with sciatica. It's a nice way to stretch the side seat. And again, it's also a precursor to the splits. So even just if you do like standing bow pose and 26 and 2 yoga, this is a really nice way to start to work a little bit deeper into the standing splits. And it's fun. Let's do the other side. Bend your legs, feet on the floor, roll off to one side, maybe the side that you haven't rolled off to yet. Slowly press yourself up, no rush. Make your way back into tabletop. And we'll do the other side of swan pose, noting that this side might feel different. As you're ready, you're going to start to bring your left knee towards left wrist, bring your left foot to the left, and start to slide your right leg back. Again, you can grab a prop to put under your hip. You can also do a seated or supine version of figure 4. Look back, make sure that your right ankle is in line with your right hip. It's not going to the right or left. And again, you can do your proud swan here or a folding forward swan. We're going to hold here for 3 minutes. My consciousness is expanding. My consciousness is expanding. My consciousness is expanding. About a minute left. Maybe you try a different variation of pigeon, or maybe you stay just as you are. Notice where you might be holding on to unnecessary tension in your body. Let it go through the exhale breath. Melt into the posture. Sink into your breath. So you're ready, you're going to place your hands on the floor in front of you. Gently lift your hips. Return your knees back to tabletop. Do any motions that feel good to your body. And then turn, make your way onto your back. Huddle pose. Let the posture go. Let the floor hold you up. Give yourself permission to relax a little deeper. Keep your left leg long on the floor. Bend your right knee. Place your left hand on right knee and start to roll to the left so that your right hip comes off the floor. Try to keep your right shoulder on the floor.
You can stay here. You can also bend your left leg. See if you can catch your left foot with your right hand, what's called cat pulling its own tail, which is a delightful name for a yoga posture. You can stay here, or you can kick your right foot out to the left and see if you can catch your left big toe with your left hand for an IT band stretch. So there's, lots of options. At base, this is a spine twist. But again, you can also bend the left foot, bend the left leg and catch the left foot with right hand. And you can also straighten the right leg and catch the catch the right foot with the left hand. Words are hard. Or you can do neither. I have faith in myself. I have faith in myself. I have faith in myself. Holding here for one more minute. See if you can relax a little deeper at the end. If you caught your right foot with your left hand, release that grip, bend your right leg. If you caught your left foot with your right hand, release that grip, straighten your left leg. You can place your hands on your right knee thigh, slowly roll your right hip down, arms and legs down, pedal pose, letting everything stretch out. Keep your right leg long on the mat. Bend your left leg. You can place your right hand on your left knee and roll to the right so that your left hip stacks on top of your right hip. Try to keep the left shoulder on the floor. You're welcome to place a pillow under your left knee for support if that feels good. You can stay here or bend your right leg. See if you can catch your right foot with your left hand for a cat pulling its own tail. And if your hand and feet don't touch, that's okay. You can still keep the right knee bent if it feels good. That's the big if. You can stay here or lengthen your left leg and eventually catch your right foot with catch your left foot with your right hand. Words are really hard today. You can also straighten the leg, but not quite catch, right? And then we're gonna hold and breathe. I am guided by love. I am guided by love. I am guided by love. Holding here for one more minute. If you've kicked your left leg out to the right, bend your left knee. If you've bent your right leg, straighten your right leg. Slowly roll your left hip back down, arms and legs down, final puddle pose, final savasana. For a final puddle pose and savasana, get comfortable. You're welcome to place a pillow under your head, under your lower back. You can place a blanket over you if that feels good. Wiggle yourself out, do any motions that feel good to your body, and then just find some stillness and breath. Everything I need, I have within myself. Everything I need, I have within myself. Everything I need, I have within myself. Everything you need, you have within yourself. So use it. Stay in final savasana for as long as you'd like. Can even take a nap if that feels good. Whenever you are ready to get up slowly and mindfully, and don't stand up right away as we've been on the floor for a while. When you do leave your yoga space, make sure that you're drinking lots of water and remembering those affirmations or other affirmations that you might tell yourself that make life and the day just a little bit easier.